The time is precisely 6:15 p.m. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. News edited by Dulmin Samarasinghe and read by Chandima Virakon. Headlines. Department of Irrigation warns of flooding in certain areas. District secretaries say they are prepared to handle any disaster situation. A proposal to expedite providing medical treatment for critical COVID patients approved. An Indian ship is expected to arrive tonight to help douse the fire at MV Express Pearl. In news overseas, Japan opens large-scale coronavirus vaccination centers. In sports news, the US Olympic Committee says Japan's coronavirus situation will not affect the visit by its delegation to the Tokyo Games. Local stories in detail. The Department of Irrigation warned today significant levels of flooding can be expected in low-lying areas of several rivers due to the prevailing adverse weather condition in the country. According to Meteorology Department's advisory issued this morning, the cyclone Yas, located in East Central Bay of Bengal, has intensified into a severe cyclonic storm, and the system is very likely to intensify into a more severe cyclonic storm in the coming hours. Therefore, central, Sabaragamuwa, western, northwestern and southern provinces may experience heavy rains above 150 millimeters within the day. The Irrigation Department said low-lying areas near Attanagalu Oya, Kalani River, Kaluganga, Ginganga and Nilwala River are at risk of major flooding. People living in low-lying areas of those rivers are urged to be vigilant in this regard. Kalutara District Secretary Prasanna Ginige has informed the people living closer to the Kaluganga to be vigilant due to heavy rains. He said Army and Navy teams have been sent to Bulat Sinhala area to face any emergency flood situation. Kagala District Secretary S. Veerasurya said that all measures are in place to handle any disaster situation. Kandy District Secretary Chandana Kethena said they are prepared to face any disaster situation. 420 families in the Ratnapura district have been displaced due to heavy rains. District Secretary Malini Lokupatagama said that they have been sent to welfare centres. She said that low-income recipient families in the isolated villages in the district will be given the 5,000 rupee allowance. She added that the 10,000 rupee concessionary pack will be given to the families under quarantine. The government has approved the proposal to expedite providing medical treatment for COVID patients who are in critical condition. The approval was granted to provide medical treatment using oxygen concentrators for the critically ill patients who were diagnosed after the spreading of COVID-19 third wave. The proposal was made by the Health Minister to take action immediately to ensure medical oxygen supply for critical patients. The government says it has planned to vaccinate 60 to 70% of the country's population against coronavirus by the end of 2020. The Department of Government Information stated the need for the expedited supply of vaccines has been recognized as there is no other solution to control the COVID-19 pandemic other than inoculation. Accordingly, the Cabinet has granted the approval for a proposal to take necessary steps for the immediate purchase of 14 million doses of the Sinopharm vaccine and 1 million doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine. The proposal has been tabled by Minister of Health Pavitra Wanyarachchi. This news comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. Moving on with the local stories. 8 Grama Niladhari divisions and 8 areas of the Gaul, Gampaha and Nuwara Eliya districts have been isolated from 4 a.m. today. Head of the National Operations Centre to prevent the spread of COVID-19, General Shavendra Silva said that Ambalangoda, Uravatta Grama Niladhari division of the Gaul district and Iriyavettiya Grama Niladhari division in Kiribatgoda of the Gampaha district have been isolated. Sandrigama section of the Sandrigama estate in Dayagama police area of the Nuwara Eliya district, NLDB farm, Lonak and Valley Oya Grama Niladhari divisions of the Watavala police area, Moragahena and Millagahamula Gramasewa Niladari divisions of the Ginigathena police area have been isolated. The army commander said that 31 Grama-Niladari divisions and areas of the Kaluthara, Monaragala, Ratnapura, Gampaha, Matale and Matara districts, which have been isolated earlier, have now been removed from the isolation status. The Navy says the fire that broke out in the forecastle area of the MV Express Pearl, a container ship anchored 9.5 nautical miles northwest of the port of Colombo, is now spreading to the quarterdeck where the bridge is stationed. The fire was exacerbated by strong winds due to changing weather conditions. However, the crew of the ship and members of the emergency response team have been safely brought ashore as of now. Against this backdrop, an Indian Coast Guard maritime pollution preventive ship with firefighting capabilities is scheduled to arrive to the scene of action by nightfall, at the request of Commander of the Navy Vice Admiral Nishanta Ulugetanna. In addition, a Dornier aircraft carrying fire extinguishing agents and oil dispersants is also made ready to respond in the event of an emergency. Due to the rough seas caused by the prevailing bad weather, the ship is now tilted slightly to the right. As a result, some of the containers on board have tumbled into the sea and some of which are believed to have sunk in waters. As such, the Navy cautions the fishing community engaging in fishing in the area to avoid this particular sea area. Speaking at a forum organized by the Information and Communication Technology of Sri Lanka, ICTA, with private educational institutes and vocational training centre officials, Anura De Alves, Chief Digital Economy Officer of ICTA, emphasized the importance of bringing in more students to the technology workforce. Contribution to the digital economy can be achieved by methodical technology diffusion, capacity building, supporting in industry development and support growth of the startups. Hence, to achieve the above objectives, ICTA is moving to the regions and setting up regional clusters. A cluster will consist of technology diffusion cells, incubators, R&D and innovation labs, decentralized companies in regions, knowledge support hubs, a suitable ecosystem for startup growth, tech educational institutes, and a capacity building program. A wild elephant who was in pain after falling into a ditch in the Puttur area, Vaunia, was rescued by authorities following the urgent intervention of Mr. Yoshita Rajapaksa, who came across the video footage of the distressed animal. The elephant is reported to have fallen into the ditch around 2 weeks ago, but it is alleged that wildlife officials had failed to respond. The elephant was rescued by a team of wildlife officers and military personnel. To end the local news, the headlines again. Department of Irrigation warns of flooding in certain areas. District secretaries say they are prepared to handle any disaster situation. A proposal to expedite providing medical treatment for critical COVID patients approved. An Indian ship is expected to arrive tonight to help douse the fire at MV Express Pearl. That ends local news.
A mother knows the pain of each member of the family. Siddha Lepa, the trusted relief for aches and pains.
An effective therapy for relief from cold, sneezing, flu, headaches, swelling due to toothaches, rheumatic, discomforts, and muscular aches and pains. Siddha Lepa, the Vedha Mahatmya in every home.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddha Lepa Vedha Mahatmya.
On the main news story, WHO has provided over 340 metric tons of essential medical supplies and medicines to support countries across Southeast Asia region responding to the rapid surge in COVID-19 cases and continues to mobilize more to fill critical gaps. Dr. Poonam Khetrapal Singh, Regional Director, WHO Southeast Asia, and thousands of oxygen concentrators, testing kits, hospital beds, tents and personal protective equipment are among critical supplies that are being shipped to countries and rushed to areas where they are needed the most. He said after jointly assessing needs and gaps with countries in the region, WHO is bringing in more supplies in the coming weeks for Nepal, Bhutan, Maldives and Sri Lanka.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya. Brush your teeth twice a day for healthy teeth and gums. Supiriviki and Kakulu, your trusted brands in oral care for many years.
Supiriviki Ayurvedic toothpaste for adults. Kakulu Ayurvedic toothpaste for kids. 9 Ayurvedic ingredients of Supiriviki will protect your teeth and strengthen your gums. Supiriviki and Kakulu, products from Siddhalepa.
Moving on to Watchlight. A new 24-hour hotline has been introduced for the public to inquire regarding essential services. The public is requested to call the hotline number 1965 for any inquiries regarding essential services during the travel restriction period. That ends Watchlight. We move on to the world news. Headlines of the world news. Japan opens large-scale coronavirus vaccination centers. Mali's military detains President and Prime Minister. Indian police visit Twitter's office after manipulated media label. Japan's government is trying to speed up its coronavirus vaccine rollout with the opening of 2 large-scale facilities in Tokyo and Osaka. It aims to inoculate the country's 36 million seniors by the end of July. The centers opened their doors for the first time yesterday. Medical workers administered 5,000 inoculations at the Tokyo site and 2,500 in Osaka. The government aims to double combined capacity from next week to vaccinate up to 15,000 people per day. Soldiers in Mali have detained the President and Prime Minister of the interim government, according to the United Nations and the African Union, deepening political chaos in the country just 9 months after a military coup overthrew its previous leader. The detention of President Ba Nadao and Prime Minister Mokhtar Ouane yesterday came hours after a government reshuffle left 2 soldiers who led the coup in August last year and raised fears of a second military takeover. Indian police have visited a Twitter office to serve notice after the social media giant labelled a tweet as manipulated media. The incident comes after Twitter applied the label to a tweet by ruling Bharatiya Janata Party spokesperson Sambit Patra. It comes amid tense relations between the Indian government and Twitter. In April, India ordered Twitter to remove tweets critical of its handling of the virus, which it complied with. To end the world news, the headlines again. Japan opens large-scale coronavirus vaccination centers. Mali's military detains President and Prime Minister. Indian police visit Twitter's office after manipulated media label. That ends world news. On to development news. Sri Lanka's largest publicly listed power company, Windforce Limited, aims to fast-track the development of the Karadhiana waste-to-energy power plant, having signed a share sale and purchase agreement with Fairway Holdings Private Limited. With this agreement, Windforce acquired a controlling stake of 92.5% stake in Fairway Waste Management Private Limited. The Karadhiana plant will reflect that cutting-edge prowess with a 400 metric ton per day incinerator plant and a 100 metric ton per anaerobic digester, together generating 10 megawatts of electricity to the national grid. That ends the development news.
Sports News is brought to you by...
When Aya bought a motorbike, he bought 2 helmets. So sweet of him. I'm sure the other one is for me.
In whatever we do, we Sri Lankans are always thinking of others. When we get Munchie Super Cream Crackers, they're not just for ourselves. Munchie Super Cream Cracker. Super kiyanne nikan neve.
On sports news, it's cricket. The second one-day international between Sri Lanka and Bangladesh is being played at Dhaka. Batting first, Bangladesh was all out for 246 in 48.1 overs. Mushfiqur Rahim scored 125. Dushmant Chamira and Lakshan Sandakan took 3 wickets each. Isru Udana took 2 wickets. The U.S. Olympics and Paralympics Committee says the United States' elevated travel warning to Japan due to the country's coronavirus situation will not affect the visit by its delegation to the Tokyo Games. The committee's remark came after the U.S. State Department yesterday raised its travel advisory for Japan by 1 notch to do not travel, the highest on its 4-tier scale. The U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee, or U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee, said in a statement yesterday that it feels confident that the current mitigation practices in place for athletes and staff by both the U.S. Olympic and the Paralympic Committee and the Tokyo Organizing Committee will allow for safe participation of Team USA athletes this summer. That ends Sports News.
My wife always sets a full lunch table even if it's just the 2 of us. She always expects people to drop by, like maybe the army.
In whatever we do, we Sri Lankans are always thinking of others. When we get Munchie Super Cream Crackers, they're not just for ourselves. Munchie Super Cream Cracker. Super kiyanne nikan neve.
Contributory deposit of 1,000 rupees from NSB when your child enters grade 1. Open a Hapan Children's Service account for your kid today. Higher interest. Conditions apply. Business News. Sponsored by National Savings Bank. The safest place for your money.
And on business news, Seat, the tyre brand manufactured in Sri Lanka by Seat Kalani Holdings, has been ranked the most valuable consumer brand in the country's motor segment in the 2021 Brand Finance rankings and has moved up 5 places in the overall list. The world's leading brand valuation consultancy assigned Seat a brand value of 2,024 million rupees for 2021, up a remarkable 46% over 2020, and an overall brand value rank of 48 among the 100 most valuable brands. That ends Business News.
Business News. Sponsored by National Savings Bank. The safest place for your money. Contributory deposit of 1,000 rupees from NSB when your child enters grade 1. Open a Hapan Children's Service account for your kid today. Higher interest. Conditions apply.
Economic news. Courtesy of...
I bought my daughter a laptop for her work by managing my finances. Whatever the expenses may be, I can't afford to miss out on life's special moments like her birthday or our anniversary. So you need to invest to make your family's future flourish.
Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibilities. That's why we promise to give you the best returns and guarantee on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by ICRA Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act No. 42 of 2011.
And on economic news, Co-Cabinet spokesman Udaya Ganmanpilla said Sri Lanka is awarding a deal for Build, Operate, Transfer elevated expressway in the capital Colombo to China Harbour Engineering Corporation. A cabinet-appointed negotiations committee had recommended that the Build, Operate, Transfer deal be awarded to CHEC after calling proposals in April 2021. Minister Udaya Ganmanpilla said the elevated expressway will be handed back to Sri Lanka after operating for 15 years. That ends economic news.
Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibility. That's why we promise to give you the best returns and guarantee on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by ICRA Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act No. 42 of 2011.
Weather report was sponsored by
Dialogue, in partnership with the Ministry of Education, introduces Nanasa, a trilingual educational mobile app with video-based lessons for grade 1 to A-levels. Now your child can study with ease on your mobile with no subscription fee.
And finally, on the weather report, the Met Department says southwest monsoon conditions has established over the country. Showers or thundershowers will occur at times in the western, Sabragamur, central and northwestern provinces and in the Gaul and Mathura districts. Heavy falls above 100 millimeters can be expected at some places in Sabragamur province and in the Kandy and Nurali districts, while fairly heavy falls above 75 millimeters can be expected in western and northwestern provinces and in the Gaul and the Mathura district. A few showers will occur in northern and north-central provinces and in the Hambantota district. Wind speed can be increased up to 60 km per hour at times over the island, and especially wind speed can increase up to 70 km per hour at times in the western slope of the Central Hills, northern, north-central and northwestern provinces and in the Trincomalee and Hambantota districts. That ends the weather report.
Weather report was sponsored by
Dialogue, in partnership with the Ministry of Education, introduces Nanasa, a trilingual educational mobile app with video-based lessons for grade 1 to A-levels. Now your child can study with ease on your mobile with no subscription fee.
And to end this bulletin of news, the headlines again. Department of Irrigation warns of flooding in certain areas. District secretaries say they are prepared to handle any disaster situation. A proposal to expedite providing medical treatment for critical COVID patients approved. An Indian ship is expected to arrive tonight to help douse the fire at MV Express Pearl. In news overseas, Japan opens large-scale coronavirus vaccination centers. In sports news, the US Olympic Committee says Japan's coronavirus situation will not affect the visits by its delegation to the Tokyo Games. With that, we conclude this bulletin of news from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.